Hey guys, welcome back to Game On. We have ourselves another viewer request about travel. Yes, travel. The one part of RPGs that some people really just don't seem to like, or if you're a hex crawler addict, then you really like it. What do you think, Matt?
Well, look, I mean, travel is one of those things that is very easy to gloss over and leave completely out of your adventure because it's just so hard to visualize how to make it interesting and rewarding as part of your game. It's difficult, but it can be done. And so what we're going to do is talk about some of the ways that we think you can make travel a more interesting element within your game. So for me, the first and most essential thing in making travel interesting in a game is making it interactive. Okay, making it an active versus a passive activity in your game. You don't want to be a GM just reading to people what happens.
No.
And you don't want to make what happens be monotonous or happen on a set schedule, right? Mm-hmm. You may be traveling at a set pace, but you don't want the drama to happen at a set pace. So you want to give the players a chance to help decide what happens with respect to travel, not just in encounters, but in the very activity of moving from place to place. And one of the ways to do that is to sort of play with aspects of travel in terms of benefits and drawbacks, right? You can talk about speed versus the danger involved in traveling at a particular speed, whether it's, you know, the metaphor of driving on an icy road, right? Yep. Like you drive slow and it takes too long to get there and you may get there too late to do whatever you needed to do. But if you drive too fast, you're sliding all over the place and you might crash. So that's a really sort of dumbed down version of it. But you want to play with elements of danger versus speed versus, like, say, expenditure of resources. Say your party has food or whatever. And versus the exhaustion factor of traveling at a certain speed, right? And one of the things that I think you can do with the impacts encounters is if you're traveling fast, that is tiring to your players. It's potentially damaging to equipment and or exhausting to your horses if you're, you know, riding horses or whatever. So you're trading off benefits and drawbacks, and you're putting yourself potentially at a disadvantage when you do have an encounter. Yeah. Because if you've been riding at breakneck speed for 10 hours and then you're set upon by roadway bandits, you're not at full strength. Like, you may have some modifiers and some drawbacks and some disadvantages that you have to deal with if you're in a combat situation or you're dealing with any other obstacle because you've expended too much of yourself going too fast. So those elements can be constantly reevaluated by the players. Mm-hmm. Like, they can make those decisions day to day, even hour to hour, while they're traveling. And you as a GM can present them with those options as frequently or infrequently as everybody wants to deal with. But I think it's nice to periodically remind them of what they're deciding to do and what the consequences of those things are so they can make those decisions.
Definitely. I just kind of quick to piggyback on what you've done. You've thru hiked, right? You're a thru hiker. Uh-huh. And, you know, hiking for a full day, this would only really work if you're traveling via foot, but like hiking a full day and, you know, a couple days in a row is really tiring.
But I would say that it's not even whether you're on foot. If you ride horseback all day, it is exhausting, especially if you're riding fast.
Yeah.
It's also with vehicles. If you've ever driven a long distance,
we both have.
I've done long distance road trips, and if you've driven for 10 hours straight, you are not sharp when you get out of the car.
I am.
Which means if somebody tried to mug you the minute you got out of the car, you would not be at full strength to defend yourself if that, and so those types,
sharp.
those, well, okay. I get it.
Anyway.
So the pun episode. So I think you can have those sorts of exhaustion and resources and speed and danger elements regardless of what type of travel, whether it's space travel, whether it's horseback, whether it's hiking, whether it's driving. You can tweak those elements but have them be present in any type of travel that you do. And let your players decide what pros and cons they want to leverage.
Yeah.
And give them the opportunity to change them. Like to pick up the pace or slow down the pace, be more careful, be more reckless, be faster. If they need to get to a certain place to do a mission and it's time specific and there's profit or danger or success at stake by not getting there or getting there by a certain time, let them choose and let them act on that information and then reap the consequences of it. The other thing that I think is really important to making travel encounters or travel interesting is to present encounters that are travel specific. Rather than you're riding along a road and are beset by bandits. You can be beset by bandits anywhere. Mm-hmm. So while that happens while you're traveling, it is not a travel specific type of thing.
Okay.
But if you're on a ship, you can be set by bandits, pirates, right? And again, that is not a travel specific thing, but it happens while you're traveling. But sailing into a field of icebergs, that is travel specific, and that is speed specific, and that is skill specific. So those types of things with travel can definitely, make for a unique encounter, which uniqueness makes things more interesting.
Definitely.
There's a great scene from a science fiction movie that I'm rather fond of that is a perfect example of how to spring travel-specific danger encounters onto people. It's a movie called Pitch Black. It's the introduction of the character Riddick, which has had a number of sequels. But the opening scene of that is the ship is pelted by micrometeoroids and they fly through the tail of a comet or something like that. And basically, effectively, the ship gets blasted by a shotgun effect of tiny little hypersonic meteoroids that punch holes through ship and some of the crew. And suddenly the ship is in the process of disintegrating / crashing. Everybody is in hypersleep and is suddenly jolted out of a perfectly peaceful hypersleep to experience midway through a spaceship crash.
That sounds pretty scary.
But it is, and it's a cool scene. But the important thing for RPG situation is to spring travel-specific encounters on people suddenly. Throw them into a situation as a product of their travel that they could not anticipate, that they didn't, that unfolds. Or maybe they're sprung into it midway through it unfolding rather than it developing slowly, so that it's a jolting experience for people. Again, the spontaneity of it creates drama, creates excitement, makes travel encounters interesting.
Agreed.
So yeah, I think those elements, intermixing those types of elements can definitely make travel fun, rather than just, well, what was the example that you gave earlier with the 3 encounters per day roll? And
well, yeah, I'll talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, no, talk about your elements that you feel are important.
So yes, those 3 encounters a day that you were talking about, how we let that slide through Tomb of Annihilation, which our names are in the book, by the way. If you have it, we're in there. You're welcome. As I kind of alluded to in the beginning of the episode, hex crawls, some people really love them. Tomb of Annihilation didn't do it right, in my opinion. And I remember all of us sitting at the table, just like rolling. Gus was there rolling 3 encounters a day. Yeah, and we're just like, ugh, can we please just get to where we want to go? And that's actually the way that I think running travel is good, is instead of having a long drawn out travel, describe the set pieces that you come across in travel, but don't like make a whole day of it. So I think it's more interesting to the players and to the GM to say, okay, you left town 30 days ago. You've been traveling for 30 days in the wilderness. You come to a gorge where the bridge on the map says you're supposed to go over, but the bridge is cut down. What are you gonna do? We're not gonna talk about, like, I might describe, yeah, you walk through lots of different kinds of scenery because 30 miles is long. And unless you live in like a desert, then it's always a desert. But if
You've clearly never lived in a desert, because deserts are all kinds of different things.
deserts are scary. Scorpions. Okay, anyway.
They're cuddly, man. They hang out in your shoes.
I know someone who had that issue. But back on track, 30 miles is a long way, but you don't have to necessarily, you can describe what you see and what you pass. Oh, the birds are chirping, but the players don't really care. They want to know when they can roll dice and make decisions.
Well, yes, but I would say what you want to not do is have those happen at like set intervals, right?
Yes.
You want them to kind of be story driven and a little bit random.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, writers of Tomb of Annihilation, but the dawn, noon, and dusk encounters every single day was monotonous. And it was annoying and it was boring. And it's when we're finding these things, it's yeah, like you said, make sure that it's at odd intervals so that they can't keep track of it.
Unpredictable, yeah.
Because that makes it more lifelike anyway. You know,
For sure.
Things come up at times that you can't predict, and that's what makes it so exciting.
Yeah,
I guess.
well, no, for sure. Spontaneity breeds drama, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we're looking for. We're looking for entertainment and interest. So you want it to be unpredictable.
Yep. So this technically isn't a video about hex crawls. If you like hex crawls,
What the hell's the matter with you?
let us know in the comments and maybe we can figure something out. But basically, the end all be all for me is that make it a montage, make it fun.
Yeah.
And make it move the story, because sometimes when you get into a long, drawn out travel process, it can really, bring down the pace of the game. Which, by the way, we have talked about adding drama, pace, and realism into games. So go check that video out.
Plug for previous video here. Well, yeah, look, travel, the nice thing about travel is that you can use as much or as little of it in your game as you want to, but it's nice to have the tools to make it interesting if and when you do use it. That's really what we're after here, right?
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to cram travel elements into every single campaign, even ones where travel is part of the story. But if you choose to, you want to do it successfully. So that's
Correct.
what we're after.
Yep. Successful and not boring. So those are the two good ways I think that we can work on travel in our games.
Yeah, and keeping in mind, certain types of games, certain gaming worlds, certain genres lend themselves to it more than others. I mean, if you're doing a pirate campaign, it's probably going to be fairly central to what you're doing.
Yeah.
If you're doing castle defense, probably not.
Exactly.
But anyway, so that was a viewer request, which we very much appreciate. And
Yes, thank
it was a challenging one, too, because it forced us to think about something that we kind of take for granted sometimes, the travel element.
Yep.
So forcing us to think out of the box a little bit, which is cool. and hopefully stuff that we discussed is of some use to you guys. And please continue to do that. Give us those ideas, give us those suggestions, give us those questions. Stump us if you have to, you know, but you know, just give us your thoughts about what you want to hear more about, what challenges you want to help trying to figure out solutions to.
Yeah, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Share the video if you like it. Stay safe and game on.
Thanks, guys.